Welcome to another episode of Courageous Me. And very excited. We've got the gorgeous Bec Timms with us today. Now, she's the director of Realise Home Loans and she's a mortgage broker. But holy mackerel, I met her when I spoke at a Kingston Collective event. And I don't know, there was just something about her from the very beginning, this incredible smile and beautiful energy. So we caught up a couple of weeks later, and oh my goodness, the conversation got deep and beautiful. So I thought, no, you've got to come on here and share that conversation with everyone else because it's doing the world a disservice not having your story out in it. So, Bec, before we get into the nitty gritty, can you tell me what excites you about having a conversation with me today about courage?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I guess, I'm always excited to talk to you, but when I contemplate courage, I think that can be something different for different people and at different times of their lives. And for me personally, courage used to be putting your head down, your chest up, pushing through, and just going against the grain, and being strong. And in the last few years, courage has completely changed the way it looks, and it actually meant breaking down and being vulnerable and allowing myself to accept help. So I think it's a really great conversation to have. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Have you just opened a can of worms there? By the way. So we will, throughout the course of the conversation, learn more about you. But tell me why your definition, there's feels like there was a bit of a turning point in there. So tell me why and where that first time you really saw courage had to play out in your life, what that looked like.
I guess you know, I didn't realize that what being strong or being tough wasn't what courage looked like for me. I was trying to follow what I was told was the ingredients for happiness, and that once I ticked enough boxes, the right career, the right partner, the right properties, that I would be happy. And I realized in doing that, I was getting closer and closer, and I wasn't happy. In fact, I had pretty much ticked them all, and I was miserable. I'd go to work and I'd have to, like, I'd be waiting for the train, and I'd actually have to step away from the platform because I'd be scared that I was going to jump in front of the train. And on paper, I should have been really happy. And it wasn't something I shared with people because I never wanted to be a burden. I wanted to, showing weakness, I thought would create more weakness, and it was just horrible for everybody. So I had the first time I really had to dive deep and require courage was acknowledging that I needed help and that I wasn't okay, and that what I thought was the secret to happiness wasn't. And that I get emotional even thinking about it. But that was probably the first time I was like, oh yeah, this requires courage. Whatever I'm presenting out, I'm not that. I'm sorry, I've been lying. I've been whatever it is. So
Okay. So
yeah.
how old were you when this realization happened?
Probably in my early 30s. So it would have been maybe about 6 years ago, actually, or thereabouts.
Okay.
So yeah.
Fruit. That's, oh my God, this is amazing. So you're in your early 30s.
Yeah,
You're miserable. You've ticked all the boxes that should have been happiness,
that's right.
and you're actually showing up in life not as who you are.
No.
Tell me
Yeah.
about the difference between who you were showing up as and who you really were inside.
So I guess who I was showing up as was someone who was really strong and confident and happy. I was married, I had properties, I was earning well over six figures income. Um, but every interaction I had afterwards, I would replay them in my mind and think, I did this wrong. I said that wrong. This person doesn't like me because I did this. And I was filled with self-hatred, and I was just trying to be what other people wanted me to be, which meant that I could never be myself. I was this person for this person, and I was that person for that person. And Sorry, I just forgot the question. I
Oh,
just
no. I just the difference between who you were showing up as,
yeah,
but
and
who were you inside? What were you holding back or not sharing with the world in your everyday interactions? Like,
I
and
guess
how did that come out?
what I wasn't sharing was that I was vulnerable and that I thought I was unlovable. And like I genuinely believed that I was intrinsically unlovable and that if anyone got to know who I was as a person, they wouldn't want anything to do with me.
Even though
So
you were married?
even though I was married, I fulfilled a role for that person and that was my job. And that's why that she loved me, is because I could do things for her. I could provide for her. But if I couldn't provide, if I couldn't be strong, then I was just worthless. So
Wow.
yeah.
And when did you first this is beautiful. When did you first realize or think that you were unlovable? Was there a moment or moments where there was evidence to prove that you weren't lovable?
um I guess, I don't my parents separated when I was very young.
Mhm.
And I was raised by my dad and my grandparents. And, I think like a lot of kids who are children of divorce, there's a bit of back and forth with the parents and there's a bit of whatever. And I guess, like I sort of learnt that they don't want you or they didn't show up or they're this. And I sort of like it was just, I think from a young age, I realized, or I thought, I realized I was unlovable. Like I still have it, the narrative somewhere back there, but it definitely doesn't control me anymore. Or doesn't, I don't act from that feeling anymore. So,
Yeah. So how did you change that? How did you turn it around? So you're feeling unlovable,
mm,
you've ticked all the happiness boxes and you're miserable.
yeah.
What changed? Like what moment or what happened where you go, hey,
Mm,
something's not right, but I've got to do something about it? Because I know you have
yeah.
done something, right? Because look at you
Yeah.
today.
That's right. And I guess, as you're saying that, like I remembered as well, like this is probably quite more noteworthy than the divorce, is that like I'm half Italian, I'm Catholic, but I'm also gay. So God didn't love me. God didn't accept, like I had friends who were Christian who said to me, God is a jealous man. He wants you to be with a man. You're failing him. So, and like people would tell me that, and like I'd walk down the street and people would say, Jesus loves you. Like, and I just, but it was like in a way of, despite you being, and I was angry with God. God hated me, so I hated him back, even though I used to pray every single night.
Yep. Yep.
And then I met, you know, uh, a meditation teacher, Swami Shankarananda, and look, I was cautious of any sort of religion and spirituality, but I would come and I would listen to his talks. And each time he would say, God, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, it's everything, it's everyone, it's you, and you're perfect exactly as you are. And I liked it. I
I like it.
I wasn't open to it to begin with, but I'd always come and I'd go, God, I feel that felt good. God, I cannot disagree with a thing that has been said. It was so uplifting. No one's telling me I'm a sinner. No one's telling me I'm bad and need to change. Like I'm literally hearing that everyone is perfect as they are. And I'm just like, oh, wow, there's a possibility I don't have to live in this way.
Wow. So you've come across this shaman, you're hearing these messages which are contrary to what you've been told or believed the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So how did that then play out? How did you weave that more into your world, or did you?
I guess to begin with, I was very skeptical and
Mhm.
I kept myself away because I'd made friends with Christians and who I thought would love me and then told me God hates me. So I was very standoffish with it all. I would read his books. I would come to programs every now and then, but I would never stay and connect with anybody. I never allowed myself to be open.
Mhm.
I just took the teachings and went, yeah, that's nice, and like went home and got on with my life. And then I was actually going through a breakup, and it was quite unpleasant, as breakups are. and there was a retreat on at the school that he runs, and I was like, oh, I got to go. Like, I just have to go. Like, there was like some pull in me that I've just got to experience more of this. And my work said to me, no, you can't. It's a block out for annual leave. You can't go. And I said, if you don't let me go, I'm going to quit. Like, I just, there was some inner knowing in me that I just had to come. And I came, and it was amazing, and I would weep, and I never used to cry. Like, I just wept. And then I forgot about it, and I got up back on my life. And that sort of happened on and off for probably about 10 years before I actually was like, oh no, I do need to come to this place a little bit more often.
Oh, well, so just going back to that. So you've got a job. What sort of work were you doing at the time?
So I was in finance. I was working in salary packaging and novated leasing.
Okay. And you
yeah.
asked to go on this retreat, and they say no because there's a block out, which I understand.
Yeah.
And you still, this calling was so great. You said, well, yeah, well, I'm going.
Yeah.
And you quit.
And I was a high performer. They didn't want me to quit. So they had to allow me to have an exemption of this company-wide block out so that I could go. So
and they gave it to you?
They gave it to me,
You quit the job. You stayed working.
I stayed where I was, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's good. Would you have quit if you had to, do you think?
Yeah, I did. I didn't know why. It made no logical sense. And I was always a very logical person back then. But I was just like, I got to go. Like,
especially working in finance, right? I understand there's that logical, very left brain kind of thinking.
That's right.
You got this calling.
And yeah, my manager used to say that I was like Spock. Like, I was very process driven back then. I was not relational at all. I was just like, this is right, this is wrong, this is whatever. But I was just like, the emotional part of me was just like, no, you need to do this for yourself.
Wow. And you said you didn't cry. What, you literally didn't cry?
I used to not have or know what feelings really were. I think as a kid, I had a lot of them and I pushed them down. I didn't like them.
Why didn't you like them? What was it about them that you didn't like?
They was probably really strong, and I was probably really scared of them. I think I didn't like feeling that way, so I stopped feeling that way, and I kind of was like in a numbness.
Yep. Almost turn your emotions off to survive.
Yeah, which I couldn't do now if I tried.
It's really good. And I want to know how you've gone from that to this. So you're doing this about 10 years, you've gone to the retreat, you're learning now about feelings, about emotions. Tell me about some of that, because this is really interesting.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't really start to, like, I've always liked being around this school and around the people there, and it wasn't until actually at some point I went through another breakup. It's always women that send me here that I decided to move in when I got divorced, or I asked if I could move in, and they let me.
Into the meditation centre.
That's correct. Yeah. And I would have these feelings. I didn't know they were feelings. I would say, I'm tired. That's how I had expressed feelings. And then I would take it to bed. And people would be like, I think maybe you're feeling something. Let's look at that. And I was like, don't be ridiculous. Like, I don't, no, I feel fine.
I don't do feelings.
I don't do feelings. I'm just tired. I can't break that. But, being in an environment with people who are looking and working on themselves and their own feelings helped shine a light on mine and allowed me to better understand when they were coming up and what effect they had on me. And it was overall, I'm still doing it. It's a very long, painful process of acknowledging what is and then sort of clearing that out though, like shining the light, like it disempowers it in some way, or, it like if it's something that's negative, and allowing to sort of like progress and move up into a clear space of good feeling. Like that's the highest goal now, is just in a clear space, good mind, good feeling.
And can you self-generate this now?
Now I can, for the most part. But I do, like, when I can't, I guess I have the tools and the strategies now to know how to. If I can't do it immediately, is to go, oh, hold on. I'm carrying a feeling that I'm acting out of it. It's, it's one thing to have a feeling, and it's another thing to have it and be unconsciously or mechanically making decisions and reacting to people from that. And I go, oh shit, like I'm not actually behaving from my good self. This is bad Bec, or sad, angry Bec that's speaking. Let's take a step back and let's work on that.
What Joe, that's that's the level of self-awareness that so many people strive to be at that are on that journey. There's many that are not on the journey and no even knowledge of this journey. But that's a really big step forward from someone who completely suppressed all sort of feelings to now be able to acknowledge it and have the tools to shift it when
Yes.
you notice that it's not in the place that you're in.
Yeah.
And what sort of things do you notice now being where you are? Where does this sort of play out in your life where you do have to tap into your tools? Is there certain moments? Is it at work? Is it in your personal life? Where do some of these moments play out?
I think if I'm being honest, probably the time that it most plays out is with family,
Oh.
because there's like a routine of reverting to who I've always been with them. Or, I go into teenage bank who's like, shut up, mom, don't do that. Or I can take things personally because, or something. That's when I probably get most hooked in, which is then the greatest opportunity for me to strengthen those muscles and practice even more.
Oh, absolutely. And how has that played out in terms of your relationship with your family then? Like if this is kind of where it started from, this
Yeah.
is still the trigger that probably puts you back into, as you say, teenage Bec.
Yes.
Um, how has that played out in terms of your relationship with your family?
It's played out quite differently with the two parents. Like I was raised, like I said, by my dad, and I think for him it's been really difficult because he's seen me be strong and successful, and then kind of break down a bit. Because in order to be built back up, you have to allow yourself to be broken down. And that requires courage. And that you're doing it for yourself, and that it's going to be worth it. But the people that love you and have seen you well beforehand go, what's going on? Like, I'm worried about you. And I think now he can maybe start to see that I'm happier, that I'm more honest in my communication with him. Like I adore him and I know he adores me, but it's definitely changed the dynamic. And then, with my mum and I never got along. We didn't really talk that much. I guess, I was angry at her. She had her own life. But in sort of doing this inner investigation, inquiry, and work, I've realized like I'm an emotional, fiery Italian, just like my mum. And I have accepted that part of me, which has accepted that part of her. And we get along like literally like a house on fire now. We hang out very often, and just she's one of my biggest, besides my partner, she's one of my biggest cheerleaders, so.
Oh, that is so beautiful. So you haven't grown up with her or a relationship with her, but you
Yeah.
have now. When do you know like when that started to change? Like, was there sort of a time you can go back to when that started to change? Because this is beautiful.
Yeah, I think I can actually pinpoint the exact moment. So, so at the meditation school that I'm at, it's not a religion, but a lot of it is based on Hindu philosophy and Indian philosophy, and there's this concept of Shiva and Shakti, or masculine and feminine, and I have always very much drawn on the masculine.
Mhm.
I held space. I was strong. I was stoic. I didn't, um, I was that. And the feminine in this concept is the creative life force. It dances while the masculine holds space, and it plays and it gets up to mischief. And to be honest, I always thought that was very, like unpredictable and scary, and I didn't like it. But there was a point where I was looking at this picture, or a statue actually, of this goddess, of this feminine, and I was like, oh, she's beautiful. Like, I have that. My mum has that. Why aren't I embracing that? Like, and there's this aphorism as well, and it says, without Shakti, Shiva becomes Shava. So what that means is without the feminine, the masculine becomes a corpse. And I was literally becoming a corpse. I was depressed. I was, and I was like, oh, I need to allow this part of my life to be alive. I have to embrace the feminine. And when doing that, then I was like, oh, mum, she's the embodiment of the feminine.
And do you reckon that that's part of, I mean, obviously it's a complex web relationships, but do you think that can be part of why you two clashed and didn't get along?
Yeah, she danced for sure, and I grew up being my father's daughter, and I was scared of that. It was unpredictable. So I probably repelled that away, instead of embracing that, which meant I repelled it in myself and everyone around me as well. But looking at that, accepting that, and taking that on board, that you need the feminine just as much as the masculine, if not more, life is better for it. So, yeah.
Oh, I love it. And someone who this is not about me today, this is about you. But certainly I've someone who's oppressed my feminine for many, many, many decades. And when I finally realized it's like, fruit is like a whole part of you that you're not letting come out and shine in the world. So when you come to these realizations, and I appreciate it wasn't an overnight thing.
No.
Tell me how embracing more of that feminine energy within you showed up. What did that look like?
I allowed myself to be seen. I'd be louder. I'd let myself laugh. I'd let myself smile. I would be a little bit more outspoken. And I would stop worrying about what is right and wrong and just be with what is. I was very much just always trying to do the right thing. Sorry. Yeah. And it's not fun. And I make mistakes now, like I'm less of a perfectionist and less like black and white now, but gosh, color is lovely,
Oh, a big fan of color, and color metaphorically. I get that's where this is coming from. Color doesn't have to mean bright and bold in this sense, but being able to express that. And I love that you said that you were able to be loud, you're able to laugh, because I remember when the day I met you, actually what drew me to you immediately was your smile and this warm, beautiful energy that you had. It's like I just had to come and talk to you. And the fact that I found out you followed Carlton, that was that kind of helped too, because being spotted. But on a more serious note, so when you were now feeling like you could laugh, you could be louder, you could, be the woman that didn't have to be the goody two shoes.
Yep.
Yeah. As that started playing out, did people around you notice a change? Did people start to, did your relationships change? Like, tell me how 100%. That sort of
people noticed me. And I guess I was scared of being noticed. Unless it was for being the best and the most perfect at something, I didn't want to be noticed. And unless I could control all of it and make sure. So people noticed me for good and probably bad reasons. But, it's something that upset them or something. But I guess, I stopped caring though about what people thought of me. And I think that made me a whole lot more relatable and open, and I think people notice that my heart now, instead of that coming from my head and being like, this relationship is like this and this is how I'm going to present myself, I was just like, hey, I'm here. Do you want to come too? Let's be here together. And I think people have been responding really well.
Oh, I can imagine, because you're like a magnet for humans. You're just so glorious to be around. So I can understand that they're responding really well. And then you've said you've had a couple of breakups. Mm-hmm. You're obviously married, I'm assuming divorced.
Correct.
Yep. And I know you mentioned you're in a relationship now.
Yes.
How different are you in the relationship? I know you're with a different person, but how different do you show up in the relationship now to say how you did pre-doing this kind of work?
It's been really funny that my partner is honestly, she's a godsend. She's my rock. She has she meditates also, and so she teaches me a lot, and she has been very patient and encouraging with me while in that period where I was breaking down, knowing that is ultimately for our my good. And so in our relationship, I guess we look at it as though there's three bodies. There's her, there's me, and the relationship. And we need to take care of each of them. And usually if one of us is getting triggered or is upset, the other one is able to fully understand that it's not personal. It's something that has been triggered from maybe a long time ago, maybe a past life, who knows, and just hold space. And it's honestly the most stable, healthy, best relationship I've ever been in. I'm very blessed to have her.
But that's so profound to say there's three entities in this relationship. There's you as the person, there's her as the person, but then there's the relationship as the entity.
Yeah.
And all three have different needs
right.
and go through different things at different times, and holding space for any of those at any stage.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. And to find someone that obviously is on that same path and has that same belief system.
That's right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, this is really deep and beautiful. You're in finance. Can you just talk about how it almost like you've got saying, like, it's so hilarious, but how do you think showing up as a person that's so self-aware and so aware of things like feelings and that play in a world that doesn't necessarily have the same belief system? And by that, I mean finance and mortgage broking.
I've always wanted to help people. That's always been my big thing. And I think, I used to be, I think I've mentioned, I used to be a secondary teacher. I used to teach health and human development. I got in there to help kids, and it brought up too many feelings. It hurt me too much. So I went away and I moved into the finance. Because like you're saying, you can't get any further away from your heart than in finance.
But you were teaching primary school kids.
Secondary. I taught health and human development psychology, and I taught at RMIT Uni for a short time, which was a VCE program for kids that I guess have had mental health problems, who have been failed by the traditional system, been expelled, kids who are homeless and mature age. And they were great. They were a great group of people. But not all of them were there for a certificate. And being VCE, there's a very strict curriculum that you need to go through. And it's not really what I wanted to work on with them.
And as you say, it brought up too many feelings. Too
many feelings.
Too many feelings.
I want to bring them all home. I want to save them all. I want to give them everything I can. And that's too much. So I moved away. Finance, safe, no heart or head.
Because I was going to say, given the fact that you're trying to suppress feelings and you're trying to get rid of them,
right.
This is bringing up feelings. How could you have stayed? You couldn't. You didn't.
That's right.
So how did that feel, going from something that was so, I guess, heartfelt and not always in a good way for you into finance? How did that kind of transition, how did that make you feel?
Safe, stable, secure. I figured I'll find a way to help people in another time, in another way. But right now, my job, I just need my job to pay my bills. And so that's what I'm going to do. But then, I got the opportunity in finance to work in education. And I realized that I was out there talking to people about their money, and a lot of people didn't have a great understanding of their finances. And a lot of people got really stressed out by, this is their pay. If their pay isn't in their bank account on that day, there's alarm bells. They're going into trauma and hypervent. It's not nice experience. And so actually I got to fulfill some part of what I was wanting to achieve through that. So that's sort of how the two blended. But then when it came to moving into mortgage broking and starting Realize, I guess having done the work on myself a little bit, I realized that your home and your finances are, depending on whether you want to look at on Western or Eastern, it's base security, base chakra needs. And if your foundation is not strong and secure, then it's really hard to move up into the heart. It's really hard to become who it is you're meant to be and realize your potential if you're really stressed about if you're going to be able to pay your mortgage and pay your bills. So really, I guess I'm using mortgage broking and financing as a tool to help people sort of develop other areas of their lives that, are of interest to them. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that though. Like even the metaphor around getting the foundations right. Like you're talking in the sense of, the bricks and mortar, like in terms of a house.
Yeah.
But it's actually about life. You getting the foundations right in order to move up more into the heart
Correct.
and to move into, doing things in this world that you want to do. So I get why you get to achieve both
That's right.
through doing the mortgage broking. And how do you find though, if you're working with some clients where it is far more transactional and where if we were having this conversation, they'd be like, yeah, well, we're not to be.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess, not everybody wants to work with a heart-based mortgage
Yep.
broker and good feeling finance. They just want the transaction. And there are a lot of brokers out there for them. There's heaps of them. And they might not be drawn to me, and that's completely okay. But other people who are, like women and other people who realize that maybe their finances are affecting their state and their emotional well-being, they probably are the ones that will be drawn to me. And because it's not just about getting the job done, it's about finding the right balance and finding that clear space of good feeling in your home and finances as well.
And that whole thing about your home, I mean, your home is absolutely where you're situated. To some people, it's their bricks and mortar home, but home is also, deep inside and who you are. So I love that, there's that beautiful combination of the two with you, and clients that are into that will be drawn to you. Those that aren't, so be it.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and Realize is obviously the name of your mortgage broking business. So, and you're self-employed now, right?
Yes.
This is your own business.
That's
You
right.
are the director of this.
Yes.
You've come from being a salaried employee to doing this. Tell me about that move. How did that sort of play out for you? And did you have to really find some courage to do that, or did it feel natural?
Do you know, I'm going to say, I'm very fortunate, and fortunate is an interesting choice of words, that prior to opening Realize, or at least for a period there, I actually had a chronic illness which stopped me from working. So for a couple of years, I had chronic vestibular migraines, which meant that I was dizzy, I couldn't see, I couldn't read, I had sensory issues, I couldn't listen to podcasts, couldn't drive. My partner would sort of assist me in walking sometimes, and that sort of occurred for about for maybe a couple of years. I was seeing a neurologist, a neuropsychologist, a physiotherapist, amongst others. I was getting Botox every 12 weeks all over. I was on a number of medications, and it meant I couldn't do anything besides be with my mind, but it meant I couldn't work. So I got very used to not having an income and not working. And so I didn't have to make that step, I guess, that some other people have had to in leaving the security. Like I actually take this as a blessing now, because God, do I appreciate the opportunity to have not had to have made a decision between my bills and my potential. And I've had it's a blessing that I had the opportunity to sit with my mind for so long intensely. So even though it was a very difficult couple of years, I definitely would not take them back. So.
Oh wow! And do you still have it?
I do not. So weirdly enough, like you gotta remember, like I've been very logical my whole life, and even though I meditate now and I live in a meditation center, I would not be what someone might consider is woo woo. Like
No.
Like I wouldn't consider myself, but when you've tried every single thing, every profession, and you're on so many drugs and they're not working, you try whatever anyone suggests. And so actually I saw a healer in Adelaide. I was told I was going to see her for a balance, which I didn't think anything of, because I used to go to a dizziness and balance clinic for my migraine. So I just thought it was that. But she was actually a psychic and a healer. And she, seeing her, sort of definitely cleared a lot of, she was sort of one of the stepping stones to getting well. I also went and saw a hypnotherapist, and she was also another stepping stone in getting well. And I learned as well that I was celiac. And so these three things, I guess, coupled with my meditation and everything else, sort of, they're all gone now, which is so weird.
Yeah, so weird because you've had this thing. I can't even pronounce what you said you had.
Chronic vestibular migraines. So they're not painful
Okay.
migraines. It's a neurological condition, and it just messes with your brain pretty.
And is there a cure for it? Like, I know you've cured it, but is there a cure for it, or is
A lot of people will get the Botox.
yes?
There's a lot of medications out there, and some people they work for. A lot of people they don't. Like in the there's a lot of communities on Facebook and stuff of people that just suffer and they're just disabled. Like they can't. Like I actually had the the disability paperwork ready to fill out and file, all signed off from all my medical professionals before I went and saw these healers. And they, so which my logical brain does not understand at all. But I think it was just an opportunity. I think, something had to happen. So.
And I guess this is where your logical brain goes, hey, we've tried everything else.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things we haven't tried. So it would be logical to at least give them a go. Like, talk about, that logical brain kicking the other part going, okay, hey,
Right.
we might need to play now. We're not on opposite sides of the sandpit. Let's get in together and hang out. We might do better together.
Communicating.
Yeah. That's right. That's such a beautiful, and is off the back of recovering from that,
Yeah.
healing from that, when you decided, right, I'm now going to start my own business. Is that kind of the
So
transition?
what I did is when I got well, I was like, all right, I'm going to apply for jobs. And I just for as a kid, I'd worked for the Cotton On Group. I'd managed one of their stores, and I just thought, just for safe, just going to test the waters, and I'm just going to apply for a part-time job at Cotton On. And they ended up giving me a store manager role, which I didn't really want because I thought that might be too much for my body. What if I can't do it? But I just thought, no, I'm going to give it a go. And I did it. I loved it. I loved connecting with my staff. I loved connecting with the customers. And I was like, oh my God, I just want to work with people and help people. And then we just, and my health has now proved that it is stable. So let's take the leap and let's do it.
Wow. And that's when you decided to start Realize Homeless. Where's Realize come from?
I guess that I initially was looking at all sorts of different options for starting a firm, and whether I went with the franchises or whether I did it my own. And something that has become a really big priority and a high value for me is always being myself now, always being natural, always being who I am and acknowledging where I've come from. And so, it's a bit of a cheeky wordplay on the fact that of realization with your meditation and things like that. And if I can help my customers become realized, then that's always a good thing. But I think that there's, within every single person that I meet and every client, there is definitely a potential within them that can be realized. And if I can assist in just that tiny little bit by getting that foundation right, or just bringing them some light into certain areas, then, that's what more could I want?
And hence Realize. I get it. Oh, I love that. And as far as doing this work,
Yeah.
and I know that it hasn't been, something you've been doing forever, but what are some of the best things that have happened so far in you now, having your own job, you're in a beautiful relationship that's just allowing you to be who you are. How are you within you at the moment?
I feel great. I cannot believe the life that I have now and the life that I once had. Sometimes I close my eyes and I meditate and I go in my inner world. I go back to my younger self, and I tell her, it's going to be okay. It's not always going to be like this. It's not going to feel like this. And she likes that. And so I feel very blessed and very fortunate, and I can't believe it sometimes. Sometimes I go, I should have done this years ago, but it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have been the same.
You weren't ready years ago. You had to be at that point where literally you said you were standing at the train going, "This is not the life I want.
No.
This I tick the boxes and I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled." And it's funny, just when you were sharing that, you used the word "feel" twice,
Haha.
which is no surprise given that we were the suppressing the feelings,
Yeah,
and of course they're all coming out, and now it is about feeling because human beings, right?
that's
We
right.
feel.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But it's so beautiful to think that you can, go back and comfort little Beck
that's right. Yeah, because she
and say
needs
it's
it,
going to be
you
okay.
know, like, and I feel like in some way, in some universe, in some whatever, it's changing the history, it's changing the narrative, it's changing some part of it. I don't know. Um, and yeah, like I like that for her, for me, for whatever. I've never been as happy and as myself as I am right now, and I love it, and I love working with my clients and in bringing that to them. You know.
So amazing. And it's funny, just in an episode I did a little while ago, I was reading one of Joe Dispenza's
Yeah,
books, and he has a line in there when he says, "When who you are is who you're being," or something along those lines, "you are truly free."
yeah,
So when you're showing up in this world as who you are genuinely on the inside, without the masks, without the, trying to do everything for everyone else based on their definitions, that's when you're truly free. And that's where true happiness lies.
yeah,
And, you are absolutely testament to that,
yeah,
that transition from trying to be someone else for everyone
yeah.
else, but at the same time letting yourself down completely 100%,
That's right.
and then flipping that. But as a result of now being who you are and living out the Beck that's on the inside in the outside world, you're actually helping more people too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
no surprises there, right?
yeah.
So what's the next big thing that you've got to reach in and find some courage for?
So I guess for me, when back when I was working with salary packaging and novated leasing, and I told you I was working in education through that, I really loved working with these people that were in the helping industries. You know, like I'm trying to provide one part of the helping with the foundation and the money, but I don't have the capacity or the personality to be a nurse out there and do the amazing things that they do. And you only have to get sick once or have one family member that's been in hospital go, God, they do amazing things. And my grandma and both I've had various grandparents in aged care, and I go, gosh, they do a good job. They really, and I saw that when I used to go and work there, and I see it now personally. And I guess one thing I really want to do for Realize is I want to get back into these helping industries, and talk to and work with these essential workers about their finances. I want to help them, and I want to do it in a way that whatever money Realize makes, it like a portion goes back to that public health or not for profit. And I guess for me, what's going to require courage is to try and make that happen. Because I am now giving myself personally. I'm not doing I'm not being something and presenting something. I'm presenting me, and I'm saying, hey, I really appreciate the work you're doing. Let me be involved too. And I think that that is something that it's like a big dream of mine to be able to do. And it's something I am a bit scared of doing as well. So it's going to require a bit of courage.
Oh, totally. But, it's courage coming from the right
That's
place.
right.
It's courage coming from something deep inside you, your innate desire to help other people,
Yeah,
and other people who are helping other people in a way that a lot of us couldn't do.
that's right.
Like, I'm with you. I take my hat off to anyone in any of those industries because we are so grateful for them, but they don't always get the appreciation or the value that they deserve.
That's right.
Um, but I'm so sure with you that anything you set your mind to, you're going to do,
Yeah.
because that just seems to be who you are, and finding courage, like, for me and the conversations I even have on this podcast, it's not all the big stuff yes, it can be at times.
Mm,
Sometimes it is just the little things
that's
that
right.
being able to show up as who you are without the mask, being able to laugh because you want to laugh, be able to be loud because you've got a loud voice, be able to now direct the work that you want to do in the area that means something at a really fundamental heart level for you.
Yeah.
Like that is just so beautiful. And I have to ask, given you're living on a meditation
Yeah.
retreat, what are some books or some teachings that you've had over the years that have been really fundamental in your growth?
The first one would be a book called Happy for No Good Reason.
Ooh.
That is by Swami Shankarananda. He's the gentleman who actually runs the meditation retreat with Davy Ma. But that's the book that was recommended to me, that sort of led me to my inner world. So it's very it's good for beginners. It's good for advanced, and I that's probably the first one. Aside from that, there's another book called Creating Union by, I can't remember her name, but it's from the people that are involved in the path work. That very much helped me in sort of understanding how to accept love, and where I might be expecting love in immature ways. And another one of my favorites probably is Eastern Body, Western Mind by Anodea Judith, which sort of looks at both the psychological and sort of spiritual perspectives of things that show up in our lives and in our bodies, and why and how to sort of to move those. So they're probably, I'm sure I've forgotten others, but they're probably my three tops.
The three's perfect, and I'll actually put all the details in the show notes, including I'll find the authors and all that. But I mean, I love hearing what people have read, but not just, you've read it because it was a good book, but read it where it's actually changed your life.
Yes.
There's something that you've taken out of those readings that you've been able to then apply into your own world, and hence make the changes that you've made to get to the point where you're this person today, which is completely different to say who you were 10, 15, 20 years ago. And yeah, it makes the world a better place.
Yeah.
So I'll put all those details. Now, Bec, if people want to get in contact with you, either because they need a home loan or they need to talk money,
Yes,
or they just want to follow a bit more about, what you're doing and the journey that you're continuing to go on, where's the best place they should go?
So I guess with probably the socials, depending on which one you prefer. So Realize Home Loans is on both Instagram and Facebook and TikTok now. If they want to sort of more connect with me and what I'm doing, my handle on Instagram is broker.bec. But otherwise, you can jump on the website, see a little bit what we've got going on. That's got all our contact details on there as well. So that's just realizehomeloans.com.au. So, yeah.
Beautiful. I'll put all those details down below. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing some of your journey, because it really is quite remarkable. And I know that the first time when I met you and we did sort of unpack some of this, I sat there thinking, wow, life is never an easy road, but for those that choose to make a change when things aren't working out, from that pivotal moment you had at that train station to where you are now and what you're doing, both at an inner level and the impact you're making in the bigger, broader world. That is it's remarkable. And it is, in my world, this is courage at its absolute finest.
Yeah.
So, Bec, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable and bringing this to the world. I know there's going to be a lot of people that will be able to relate or tap into some of those resources that you've shared as well. And if you need a home loan, go to Bec. She's your woman.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you for being so beautiful and so courageous.
Thanks for having me.
So grateful.
I really appreciate
it.